Welcome back to my channel, New Earth Ascending. My name is Terrence. Today's talk will be entitled, What is Loosh? Are we living on a Loosh farm? If you're unfamiliar with the term Loosh, it was coined, I believe, in the 1980s by a set of men named Robert Monroe. And Mr. Monroe, he's a former radio executive turned inventor. And he invented a device called the Hemi-Sync. And what the Hemi-Sync does was it connected the both hemispheres of the brain in such a way that it made leaving the body, astral traveling, very easy, almost natural. So consequently, he did this a lot. And when he did, he documented it in several books. And he wrote down the conversations he had with the residents of the lower astral realm. And one of the residents, a entity he called BB, he categorized each entity he spoke with, numbers and letters, trying to be a little scientific about it, I think. And what BB said is that it's well known throughout the universe that the Earth was made to generate the substance that he called Loosh, a substance which on Earth, wrote down a quick definition of it, the substance on Earth called Loosh is life force energy tainted by fear, aggression, and pain. It is only made in its pure form by an organism that has at least a brain, a backbone, and a central nervous system, i.e., mammals, reptiles, fish, in varying degrees. So BB told Dr. Monroe that a being named someone from somewhere came to the Earth about 3.5 billion years ago, looking to set up a Loosh farm. Apparently this substance, Loosh, is very rare in the universe. It arises very sparsely on its own. And there are prospectors, entrepreneurs in the universe who go and look for it to harvest it, modify it, distill it, and sell it to those somewhere who like it, who uses it as a drug or eat it or whatever it is they do with it. This being he called someone from somewhere who came to the Earth, he wanted to make it. He didn't want just to wait around and look for it to arise, look for it wherever it is. He wanted to pick up a suitable planet and make it. So 3.5 billion years ago, someone planted his first crop, a crop of single-celled life. He gave it some time, and it did produce somewhat of what he was looking for. It still needed to be boiled down and distilled into the final product. It's if you know anything about alcohol or gasoline distillation, it was like a mash or like crude oil is what was produced. It still needed to be boiled down, distilled into the final marketable product. Gasoline or grain alcohol, vodka, etc. So he tried again, and he planted a second crop. This time it was a vegetative life. That crop yielded almost no results, no Loosh at all. So after a few billion years, and we're talking about a godlike being here, obviously, he was trying to figure out what he did wrong, and he was surveying his life, the life on this planet, which by this time had evolved into fish and then amphibians and then to reptiles. So we're looking about at the age of early dinosaurs, where we had a lot of large herbivores subsisting on the second crop of plant life. That gave him a problem in that the herbivores would almost decimate all the plant life, and then they too would end up dying off because they didn't have anything to eat. So he had this constant cycle of abundance and scarcity going on within the planet. So he was looking to solve that problem. And when he looked closer at the large herbivores, dinosaurs, he noticed that when the vegetative life began to run out, they would struggle over what was left. They'd fight each other over the last tree limb or a piece of fruit or whatever it was. And when they did, they would produce the product, the loosh he was looking for, in almost its pure form. So he thought, well, how do I improve upon my system? How do I make this better? So he went back to the drawing board, went back to his first crop, and he modified them he created predators to prey on the herbivores, attacking them, struggling. He gave the predators, fangs and teeth, and some of the herbivores he gave armor and defensive shells, and some sort of thick skin to prolong their struggle, so they could fight a while and really tear each other apart, producing this maximum psycho-spiritual energy tainted with fear, aggression, anger, etc. But the dinosaurs were, of course, large and cumbersome, and they took a long time to mature. And they really couldn't do anything but eat poop and make little dinosaurs. So about 65 million years ago, he started over with the fourth crop, what we know as mammals now. And he made both predators and prey. When he made the predators, again, with the fangs, the claws, the tearing and shredding capacity, and the predators having some sort of defensive, the prey having some sort of defensive armor to prolong their struggles. Okay, and that worked for him. It was, he called it the law of prime catalyst, that, carbon, oxygen, cycle animals, the kind we have here that breathe oxygen in and carbon dioxide out, what we consider organic life here, struggling, produce Loosh. It's the prime catalyst. Struggle within a carbon-oxygen cycle, produce Loosh in its pure form. So he was like, yeehaw, this is awesome. He hired some, what do you call it, collectors, to harvest the Loosh and transport it to somewhere for sale. And being an entrepreneur, and it was taking 4 billion years to make this thing, he retired. But before he did, he made an experimental unit, a modified type 4 mammal. I wrote down a good description of what this modified unit is. Okay. Someone designed one last experimental species, his masterpiece. It was omnivorous, with a fluid social and sexual styles, not bound by any specific dietary or mating requirements. They would thrive in almost any environment. Their outstanding feature would be that they were able to consume both plants and animals while still remaining small enough to be considered dinner by many large predators. This time, however, the prey would be clever enough to turn the tables and hunt the predators if they chose to do so. But since this species also lacked any sort of protective mechanism, no furs, claws, or horns, someone gave it a piece of himself. Think Anunnaki here. A gift which came in the form of an immortal soul or in the shape of alien DNA. By doing so, not only did he give it great intelligence, he instilled within it a deep desire to seek out and reunite with the infinite, God. However, no longer driven solely by the needs to eat and reproduce, they would never be able to fully satisfy themselves here on Earth. Folks, that's us. That is us. That describes us to a T. We can exist in almost any environment. We're not bound to any. We're omnivorous. We're not bound by some specific dietary requirements. Mating, sexual preferences. We have all kinds of styles for mating and for bonding. We're very adaptable. It's us. And after he made the modified species, humans, he left. He retired and went into retirement and did his thing. And this left the Earth to be looked over by the collectors, what he called them, and just collecting the Loosh product and processing it and shipping it back to somewhere for sale. And life was awesome. And then he got the call that the Earth had been hit by a large meteor. To me, this is probably about 11, 12,000 years ago when we had the Younger Dryas comet impact, where it caused what is remembered as the Great Flood around the world. Every culture has a flood myth from about the time of Atlantis, which wasn't about 9300 BC according to Plato. So this was that time, and someone came back shortly after, and by the time he did, the collectors had restored the planet to the balance best they could. So he was surveying the damages, surveying what the Earth had become, and he was using his instrumentation to look for Loosh, and he couldn't believe how much Loosh was just emanating from the Earth now. So he couldn't figure out what had changed. So he went looking, a little closer, and when he found out large pockets of Loosh emanation, he moved in and checked it out. And his first encounter, which initially he thought was just a predator-prey relationship, just a predator and the prey just fighting it out. But upon closer inspection, he found that the animal emanating all this Loosh was not fighting for its life. It was fighting. It was struggling to protect its young. Said in my last video, these mammalian orange ray characteristics that makes us, above the reptiles and the amphibians and the fish, is that mammals are capable of bonding and caring. We care for our young, and we care for each other. We live in packs, herds, tribes, etc. Okay, so a mother wolf struggling to protect her young emits massive amounts of Loosh, he found out. But according to his calculations, that alone didn't account for all the Loosh he was reading, all the, mama bears trying to save their young, or, that type of situation didn't account for it. So he went looking closer, and he came upon a clearing, and he found a massive amount of Loosh emanations coming from it. And he looked, and he realized it was one of his modified fourth crops, his humans, what evolved into human beings. And he saw that it wasn't fighting, it wasn't struggling for food or for its life, it wasn't looking to protect its young, it was just standing there by itself, eliminating massive amounts of negative psycho-spiritual energy. And it hit him. It was lonely. It was sad. It was by itself. Something had happened to its family. The type of thing. It was just massively traumatized and sad and stressed out. And he realized, cha-ching, these modified creatures are a pure cash cow. The energy they emit does not need to be distilled down. It's in its pure form. It has to be harvested. And if we can get all of them into a state of anxiety, fear, depression, stress, the Earth itself would be a monumental Loosh generating planet, a cash crop for him, like beyond his wildest imagination. So he went to work with the collectors, setting up structures. First he divided people by gender and sex. Then he divided us again through a social stratification. You had your leaders, and you had your followers, you had your chosen, and you had the ones who were not. And then again by rich and poor, created religions, corporations, social structures, to where what we have now, a world run by governments, corporations, and religions that just endlessly stress us out, was put in place long ago by this being, according to Robert Monroe. I'm not saying this is true, but if you look at the world, it does seem like we're living in a Loosh farm. Have you ever watched the news, or maybe at your job, and you ask, why is it like this, or why are they doing it this way? Why are these psychopaths in charge? The crazy people, the mentally ill people seem to be running the place. Why can't we do better? Why is it, it's got a new policy at your job that's just stupid. It does nothing but stress you out. Why does the government do things and do nothing but stress you out? If you look at it from that point of view, that maybe we're being farmed for this energy. We have all these social structures in place to stress us out. I mean, read some Rudolf Steiner. He said there are beings in the spiritual realm who feed off of fear and anxiety and stress. And if there's none of these lower emotions, these creatures starve. There's no Loosh, creatures starve. Is that true? I mean, it very well may be. This planet, look at our social structures, hospitals. I mean, if you've never worked in a hospital, it's a tough job. And hospitals just generate what? Physical and emotional suffering. You have the patients who, are maybe in quite a lot of physical pain. And then when they find out they have whatever disease and cancer, that emotional pain kicks in. You have their family and loved ones coming in and feeling that emotional pain of potential loss or fear. And that's not even the employees down there in the, kitchen or somewhere, struggling to do a job that causes their body to hurt and causes them emotional turmoil, in the form of policies that are brought in that don't make any sense to anyone other than the people looking to sell their Loosh. Okay, prisons are another example. Shopping malls, where you just have this environment. The old indoor shopping malls are great for creating a desire, an envy, a lust, a greed. And then a disappointment that you can't afford that, brand new pair of Mata Go-Go stretch elastic pants. And now you're changing the way you're going to go steal it. You're going to find some way to get that. The selfishness. All these institutions are major institutions of our world. The social structures create this negative energy that Monroe called Loosh. Look around. Be open-minded about it. And consider it. Okay, well, I'm going to let you go on this one. We'll see how it turns out. Appreciate you making it this far. Of course, as usual, into stuff like this, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. And I'll see you next time.